So we'd like to begin our morning with a short meditation. And if you have your own particular meditation practice, just do that. And if you don't, you can just easily just close your eyes, keep your back relatively straight, upright, and just become aware of your breath in your belly. And just follow your breathing in to your belly and breathing out from your belly. But your attention stays in your belly. You don't follow the breath going out. You stay in your belly and you're aware of the breath in the belly. And you continue like that if your attention wanders away, or when your attention wanders away, I should say, and you catch it, you just simply bring it back to your belly and your breath until you hear the bell. And yeah, that's it. Okay. So welcome everyone again. And for those of you who joined us during meditation, welcome. I see names from all around the world. That's good. So, this is the third of a series of 3 webinars we've been doing for a few months now. So in this webinar, we want to address the question of taking real action. What is real action? What does it mean? How do we do it? What's the advantage of taking real action? And what's the non-real action about? So, of course, we are all familiar with the situation in our world these days. We are faced with a lot of difficulties, a lot of problems, and a lot of uncertainty in many areas of life. Of course, there is a big shift in the United States in terms of our political situation. We have a new president, and many people think that's a great thing, and some people think that's horrible. And now we are all lost, and we are going down to hell. So whatever your perspective may be, still we have plenty of problems, that create a lot of uncertainty in our world. We have the pandemic, of course, still raging on. We have political unrest, inequality. We have economic problems that we are facing as a world, as nations, and as families and as individuals. That creates stress, and we have health problems, health issues, climate change. If you believe in that, many people don't believe there is a problem. But if they don't believe that climate change is the problem, they believe there is something else going on. There is some conspiracy to control us, and that's even worse. So there are a lot of problems that create uncertainty in our world, uncertainty in our consciousness. And we may feel fear, we may feel anxiety, insecurity, or even anger or hatred even, as a result of all these difficulties, all these conflicts, all these problems. Now, different people respond differently to stressful events like that, like these. Some people become paralyzed. They go into freeze response, and they cannot take action. They cannot do anything. Whether in their social life or their family life or their individual life, their professional life, in any area of life. And some of us may feel, instead of becoming paralyzed, we may go into reactive mode. And we feel our reactive emotions, and we are compelled to take action. Which brings us, of course, to the main subject of our main topic, action. So when we feel reactive and compelled to take action, we can call that reactive action. We can call it many different things, but for our purposes today, let's call it reactive action. And we will define it as action that comes out of reactivity, action that we feel compelled to take. It's like sometimes when somebody says something and you feel, I have to say something, and you just come out and you say it, and then you say, God, I shouldn't have said that. What made you say it? Yeah, it's like there is a force inside, some kind of a reactive emotion that feels like it compelled you, it pushed you, it made it impossible for you not to open your mouth and say the thing that later you regret. We've all done that, haven't we? If you haven't done it, congratulations. You have mastered reactive action. Maybe I'll turn the teaching over to you. Uh, so we all know, I think, to one degree or another, that kind of acting that is a reactive action, that is springs out of some kind of a compelling emotion inside that is of a reactive nature. It's a strong emotion like anger, like hatred, like fear, you know, that makes us want to say something or want to do something. Yeah. So those are the reactive emotions on the one end of the spectrum. And then as we come to the other end of the spectrum that we will call real action, we see that we come from a deeper, more calm, more relaxed, more centered, more grounded, more reasonable kind of a place where we actually can think, what's the right thing to say here? Or should I say anything? And it's not just about saying things, it's about doing things also. What should I do? Do I strike back? Do I run? Do I go demonstrate in the streets? Do I storm the Capitol? What do I do? What action do I take? Do I tell my boss off? Do I file for divorce? That's reactive action. It's reaction that is action that is coming out of reactivity. Now, when we act from that place of reactivity, when we act out of our reactive emotions, our anger, our fear, our jealousy, our insecurity, our hatred, any of those emotions, when we act out of them, when they are the motivator of our action, when they are the factor that primarily shapes our action, dictates our action, when we do that, in a very real way, that action carries that emotional charge also, doesn't it? It's like if you act out of fear, it's like you are spreading fear in the atmosphere, in the field. It's like sometimes you go into a house where people have been fighting and you can feel it. It's like they may not be there, but you go into a house and you feel like, what has been going on in here? There is something in the atmosphere, in the field, because even the objects, the walls of the house and the chairs, they absorb the vibration, the frequency of this reactivity. And it exists. It's like in the collective field. I mean, Jung spoke of the collective unconscious. I remember many years ago, I became aware of something. I don't know if it's still going on. Maybe one of you knows, and they will tell us later. But a long time ago, many years ago, I heard that at the university, at the State Penn University, Pennsylvania University, there was a project going on where they have asked thousands and thousands of people around the world to install this program on their computers that was basically running random numbers. You know, and some people, of course, are, questioning that concept itself. They say, wait a minute, how can you have a program that is running random numbers? That's not random, that's programmed. Random numbers means you just have a die and you just throw the die, and or you have balls and you turn the wheel, and So anyway, they have some way that they have managed to do it. I don't know what that is. But anyway, if you have a computer generating random numbers 24 hours a day, and they had people at the end of the day send the results to this particular address at the university, and then they will compile all the data in their supercomputer and just monitor basically these random numbers generated by the computers around the world in all different countries, and if the numbers are random, you should have about equal number of numbers of ones and twos and threes and fours and so on, just about equal distribution. And because it's such a large number of people, you will have a pretty accurate, evenness of the numbers generated. Well, one day they observed that the numbers went berserk. They just focused in one direction. And they were puzzled, like, what is going on? What happened here? Well, a day later, the 9/11 attack happened in New York. He's like, whoa, wait a minute. What does that mean? We still have, of course, all kinds of speculation of what does that mean. It means there was something in the consciousness of humanity. Why did it happen before the event? Why did it affect the computers? How are computers, sensitive to this field of the human consciousness? And the same thing happened when Princess Diana died. And the same thing happened when Mother Teresa died. So big events that actually rattled the collective consciousness in a big way. I'm wondering if they are still running the program and what's happening now with COVID and all the upheavals that we have going on. I would be very interested to know if the program. I'll probably do a search out later after our meeting and find out. But anyway, what that tells us is basically it's an example of, there is some kind of an external, more objective data that tells us that there is such thing as a collective field, and that field is affected by events, and if the actions that we take are harmonious, they will have a harmonious effect on this collective field. And if the actions that we take arise out of reactivity, out of reactive emotions, anger, hatred, jealousy, competitiveness, then it will add to the disharmony and the competitiveness and the anger in the atmosphere, in the field of our world. So I believe that these are really very clear, very real effects. There is a story that I read many years ago. It was a story about Ramakrishna. He's an Indian saint, died many years ago. But Ramakrishna used to live in his ashram. And one time he went traveling. And he was gone for a few weeks. I don't remember the exact thing, 2-3 weeks. And when he came back, there were many of his students living in the ashram, and they said, "Oh, thank God you're back. It has been crazy here. We've been fighting. We've been, there is such a conflict between us and disharmony and so on. Please, do something." So Ramakrishna nodded, and he went into his room and locked the door and didn't come out for 3 days. Everything calmed down, everything relaxed. the whole group started interacting in a much more harmonious way. Everything went back to normal, how it was before he had left the ashram. And then he came out and said, so how is that conflict, the problem that you wanted me to talk about? How is it? They said, it's gone. Oh, he said, and then he talked to them about, how, while he's meditating, he's creating a certain harmony, it's like by diving into that deeper field of presence, that deeper field of essence, whatever you want to call it, that is harmonious, that is peaceful, that is peace itself, that is harmony, that is love, that is unity. He actually radiated this harmony and peace and love and unity in the field of the ashram, and everybody just fell in line with the harmony. And they started acting harmoniously. Apparently, they couldn't hold it by themselves without Ramakrishna's presence at the time. And there are many examples like that. I remember one time back in the, what was it, in the 70s? Yeah, it was in the mid 70s, I think. I lived in Europe at the time, in Florence, in Italy. And I remember I was part of a spiritual group, and we had a retreat in Germany. And we were in this building that, it was large enough building. We just basically lived in there. We, went out in the courtyard, and, we just chanted all day and meditated all day. And it was, a beautiful, 6-7 day retreat that we immersed ourselves in the field of spiritual consciousness. After we left, we saw that around our building, there was some damage. And we found out by talking to the neighbors there that there was a big storm that hit the area at the time, but our building remained untouched. And we were puzzled by that. It's like, wow, this is quite interesting. Why did the storm didn't hit our building, but hit everything around the building? A lot of speculation, of course, but my understanding is that when we actually do tap into that spiritual dimension, we do affect the field around us, and we create an effect. We radiate the peace, we radiate the harmony, we radiate the love. There are many examples like that. There is talk of people who practice transcendental meditation going in the Middle East many years ago, where there was a war going on, conflict in this country. I don't remember which country it was. I think it was Lebanon. And they basically went into the middle of the conflict, and they sat in the building, and they were meditating every day for long periods of time. And during the time that they were there, for about a week, all the hostilities went down. Violence was reduced. Fatalities were reduced. Injuries were reduced, And then they left, and the violence just flared up again. So there are so many examples that, it's not only our spiritual action. That's the most, I think, stark contrast that we can see. But every action we take has its ramifications. It carries a certain vibration. Every action we take has a certain effect. It carries the vibration of where it's coming from. So the more real the action is, the more it will bring out, and the reason why we call it real action is because it's grounded in the more fundamental reality, the true nature of reality, not on the reactivity, not on reactive emotions based on fear, jealousy, anger, hatred, things like that. So real action will bring in more harmony. Action that arises out of our deeper awareness of unity, love, and peace, which is the fundamental reality, the true nature of reality. It will tend to manifest in our world more of those qualities. And when I say in our world, not just the general world around us, but also in our families, in our relationships, in our work, the workplace, and in our own bodies. There's plenty of research these days that shows us that when we are actually living and experiencing reactive emotions, that sets up a cascade of biochemical reactions and responses in the physical body that cause stress and set the stage, basically create a biochemical environment for disease to develop. So it's not just a subjective thing. It actually creates real effects in our bodies, in our relationships, in our immediate environment, and our world at large. So, if what I'm saying is true, and, use your own, you don't have to believe me, and actually don't believe me, investigate. I always tell people, don't believe what I tell you. Please don't. I'm not trying to create some kind of a following here, where we are like, a religion that, you just I tell you and you just believe. No. Whatever I say, I propose it as the truth. Investigate in your own experience, do your own research and find out, is it true? Is it true in your own experience? Find out. And then if it is true, then of course the question becomes, how do I take real action? How do I move, my place? Of course, we all move on this spectrum, on this continuum, because it's not either or. It's not either you take reactive action or you take real action. It's a mixed all the time. It's like there is more presence or there is more reactivity. You come from deeper place or you come from more of a surface place. And it's like, it can be 80% reactive or it can be 60% reactive. You can be 50% grounded or 60 or 80 or 100% grounded. It's completely real action. So how do we do that? I mean, you're already probably getting the drift of it, where I'm going. Well, I can only take real action when I'm grounded in the true nature of reality, the true nature of what I am. So the more I am aware of that presence, that field, that dimension of reality, that is that substantial presence that we spoke about in the first webinar. And if you were not here in the first webinar, Elizabeth will send out an email tomorrow, probably, or the next day, with the link to the recording of this webinar, and she will include the links of the other two, and then you can listen to it or listen to it again if you want. What is this field? What is this fundamental presence that is a substantiality, that is not an idea, is not a concept? This fundamental presence that many of us know, many of you know what I'm talking about. Maybe all of you know. I don't know. But there is this fundamental field that is a presence, that is a substance that is not physical, but it is palpable. You can feel it. Sometimes you can see it. You can taste it, but you can feel it. It's like, yeah. But this substance is more substantial than physical matter when you really experience it. Because physical matter is like, you take physical matter and it's like, what's it made of? It's hard, But what is it really made of? Well, it's made of atoms. But what are the atoms made of? Well, when you go down to the subatomic level, it's a 99% empty space. 99% empty space. It looks solid. It feels solid. 99% empty space. And what's the 1% that's left? Well, physics says, well, they're kind of like, fluctuations in the void. And we say, well, what are these vibrations, fluctuations made of? Nothing really. There are fluctuations of nothingness. Yeah. So 99% is empty space and the remaining is fluctuations of nothing. Great. Solid, huh? But this substance that we are talking, the presence, is actually solid. It's like if you imagine taking these golf balls, thousands and thousands of golf balls, and filling a pool, empty a pool of water and fill it with golf balls. And then start, take your, miniaturization gun and start radiating the golf balls so they start shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. The more they shrink, the more the space between each ball gets reduced. And you keep filling the space with it, and reducing the balls until they are non-dimensional points, that they have no dimension. If they have no dimension, they all touch each other so completely that there is no empty space left between them. So it's a continual, homogeneous medium that has no empty spaces in it. That's the spiritual substance, the essence that I'm talking about. This presence, when you experience it, is more solid, it's more substantial than physical matter itself. And this substance can manifest as peace, that is a dense, solid, a kind of massive presence, substantiality that is vast, that is quiet, that is still, that is peace, that is silence. Or it can manifest as love, that is a warm substance, that is fluffy and soft, like the petals of a rose, and is soft and is smooth and is pink. And when it touches your mouth, it goes in your mouth, it's like it's sweet. And when it touches your heart, it fills your heart, you feel full of love. So love is not just an emotion. Love is actually a substantiality that exists. It's a substance. It's a spiritual substance that exists. Love is real. Peace is real. So when you act from peace, when you emerge from peace, when you feel peace and you act from peace, you are bringing that substance of peace into the world, into the field of humanity, into the field of your home. When you feel you are grounded in this field of love and you act out of that love, you bring that love into the world, into your relationship, into your home, into your workplace. So in order to take real action, we need to ground ourselves in this ground of reality that is underlying everything, but is invisible to most of us most of the time. So it's almost like we need to drop from the surface into the depth of reality and discover experientially that deeper dimension and learn to live in it. And then, of course, it's not just through meditation that we can do that. Meditation is a very important way that we can actually begin to experience this deeper dimension of reality and then learn to live in it. And the longer we meditate, the more deeply we can go, and the more frequently we meditate, the more we can establish this way of life for ourselves. But also through inquiry, like in our path, the diamond approach, we use inquiry. We inquire into when we get distracted from it, and we get into a reactive emotion, into fear or anger or jealousy or whatever. So anything that takes us away, we inquire into it, and we understand the truth about it. So inquiry can be a very important way that we can help ourselves to take more and more real action. Take more real action and more frequently real action. So this inquiry can help us in many different ways, also in the external world, because we can, ground ourselves in the truth of our nature, the reality of that peace, where we don't feel attached to anything. And from there, we can inquire into what is true and what is not true. On all levels. On the scientific level, on the relationship level, in the political world, in the scientific world, in the social world, It's like somebody says, democracy, the best system in the world, Socrates didn't agree. Did you know that? Socrates didn't think democracy was really that hot. He said, if people are educated and well informed, he says, democracy can work. But if people are stupid and they are misinformed and misled and they are triggered, their fear is triggered, you don't have democracy, you have demagogy. And we know that. We've seen it, and we still are seeing it. But many times we react. We take positions. Democracy is the best system. Or China is a dictatorship. I was talking to my sister the other day, and I told her something about, dictatorship. And she says, China is not a dictatorship. I said, what? China is not a dictatorship. They have elections. I said, but there is only one party. He says, yeah, you have two parties. What's the difference between the two parties? She said, you might as well just have one. They're so similar. I stopped and I just sat back. It's my sister. I'm more open to listening to her. So she presented me with some things that really, it's like, wow, okay. So we have some thinking to do here. I do. Inquiry into what is the truth about, and you can inquire into these things. What is the truth about democracy? What is the truth about other governance systems around the world? What is the truth about freedom? What is the truth about this, about that? What is the truth about coronavirus? What is the truth about climate change? To what degree is it real and to what degree is it propaganda? All of it. Democracy, capitalism, freedom, relationships, marriage, what's so great about marriage? Is it a great thing? I was watching a comedy last night. I discovered this comedian. He's British, I think. And he was talking, he says, children, he says. Children. And all the people, he says, I listen to, people, he says, who are just young couples, they don't have children. Oh, it will be so great when we have children. And he was really exaggerating it and making, oh, it will be so cute and they will be, you don't know anything. He said, and then he started talking about it, it's a battle every day to make them eat their breakfast. It's a battle every morning to get them out of the house to go to school. It's a battle every night to get them to bed. And then he says at 2 o'clock in the morning they are up because of something, and you cannot sleep. And he says, there is a, you turn to your wife and you say, oh, honey, isn't that wonderful? No, you tell her, you deal with it. Anyway, he was dramatizing the whole thing. But it was an interesting thing because he was really dramatically presenting what is the idealization, the fantasy, and what is the reality. And it's not all good or all bad. It's a mixture. Everything in life is a mixture. Democracy. There are many good things about democracy, and there are some very bad things about democracy. Like, if people are misinformed, it all goes to hell. And so on, If we get all afraid about the pandemic and we go into panic, we can cause more harm, right? If we don't take it seriously, 400 plus million, 1,000 people die unnecessarily. Yeah. So there are all these different things. So it's like real action can also not only come from a deep place of more realness in terms of I'm grounded in my nature, but also it's more objective because you are not so easily swayed by what people say and the reactive emotions, going into fear, going into panic, taking positions, oh, dictatorship. The moment we hear that, it's like, everybody goes up at arms, The Chinese are oppressing the Uyghurs, Well, has anybody really looked into it? I tried to look into it. What do the Chinese say? I say, no, he says, we have some terrorists like you do too. Some separatists that are trying to split that region of China off China. So we are dealing with it like you're dealing with it in your country. There is genocide. You look at the Chinese that, well, anyway, you can go into it and you can investigate. I became very interested. I looked at it. It's like, the propaganda makes no sense. There are too many holes in the narrative to make sense. But we buy the propaganda about this nation, that nation, about this event, about that event, and so on, when we actually are able to settle more and we are not afraid to abandon our positionality, because we position ourselves. I am for freedom. I am for democracy. I'm for marriage. I'm for, abortion or non-abortion or whatever it is, any issues, right? When we take a position, we close our mind. It's like we put blinders on and we cannot see. And even things that sound very good, like being, free and democratic. Is freedom a good thing? Not if it means you are free to go kill people. Is freedom a good thing? No, if you're free to go exploit people, that's not freedom. So you see, it's like everything has its place. But if we really position ourselves in a rigid way, in a fanatical way, we lose our objectivity. But the more we have a ground, why do we position ourselves? We position ourselves, I think, because we lose our ground. If we don't have the ground under us of what is true and what is real, we are looking for something to grab on, whether it's a religious belief or a political belief or any ideological system that we, cultural thing, beliefs, to grab on, to have a ground, to feel stable. We all need a ground. We talked about this before. If our ground is ideas and beliefs, it's not objective. And then we become positioned. Those are positions. when we are able to ground ourselves into the truth of what is the reality, the true nature of reality, then we can be free of our positions, and then we can inquire and we can discover the truth about the external world also, whether it's in our political, social, economic, our relationships, our work environment, our science, health, everything, everything, you know? And then you find yourself doing things that are considered sacrilegious, like questioning democracy. It's like, you know, people, I do that, and people, just go, you're questioning democracy. Oh my God. Yep, I am questioning democracy. I'm questioning everything. Everything is up for questioning, investigation, inquiry into. Why not? There are no sacred cows. Even the diamond approach is up for questioning. Is what I'm telling you true? You be the judge. That, to me, liberates me to discover deeper and deeper truth and ground myself in deeper and deeper truth, and then take action that is more and more real, more and more based in realness, in the truth, And I'm not telling you what the truth is. The truth is what we each experience, discover in our own experience. The truth of the presence. What is the true nature of you? Only you can discover it. And if you don't discover it in your own experience, my words, if you believe me, that's why I keep saying, don't believe me, because then that will become a position, a religious belief. And I don't want that. That's not what I'm here to do. That's not what the diamond approach is here to do, establish a new religion. God knows we have plenty of those. We don't need more. So anyway, have I talked enough? Probably. So now it's time for you to talk. As we do in the diamond approach, we don't just talk, we explore something together. And then we get together in groups. Today we'll get together in groups of 3. 3 people together. And I see that, anyway, Stephanie will do the calculation, and some of you will be 3s. Most of you will be 3s in a group, and some of you will be 2 probably in a group. And I would like you to inquire into this question, explore. What kind of action do you usually take? Is it more real action, or is it more reactive action? What does it depend on? Do you take more real action in certain circumstances and more reactive action in certain other situations? When somebody says ABC, you just go ballistic and you can, real action goes out the window. We all do that. You want to really look at what is the reality, what is the truth for you. What makes it hard for you to take real action? What kinds of things do you get caught in? And what will be helpful for you? Could be that, well, I need to inquire into this. Why do I get triggered every time somebody says ABC? What is that about? You inquire into it. Or maybe I need to really meditate every day, or meditate more every day, whatever. What will help you to ground yourself more in the truth that you know of what you really are, so you can take more real action? So we'll do that for 10 minutes each. And for those of you who haven't done this before, those who are observing, you don't talk, you don't say, you time it, use your iPhone, whatever you are using, your smartphone. For 10 minutes each, you just talk, and you're not talking to tell people something, you are talking to inquire, to investigate out loud your own experience and find something new. So it's not about showing other people how much you know. It's about discovering something new for yourself, understanding more than when you started. Okay? And then after the 10 minutes, the next person goes, and then the next person goes, and then we will take 5 minutes after that. So it's going to be 30 minutes plus 5 minutes.